We're hearing specifically that the Lakers do not want to trade Austin Reaves, even though if they want to get a big fish, they might have to. We reported the other day that if they do trade Reaves to a team like the Atlanta Hawks, they want guys back. So let's say if they traded like Rui Hachimura, Austin Reaves, and Gabe Vincent, they probably want DeJounte Murray and Bogdan Bogdanovic, or DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, and AJ Griffin. They want a bit more compensation in return. However, the Los Angeles Lakers are telling teams around the leagues that they do not intend to trade Austin Reaves, according to Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports. Sources add that the Lakers could possibly trade for DeJounte Murray should they include Austin Reaves in a deal. Jake Fisher adds that D'Angelo Russell's $17 million salary is not viewed as a valuable trade piece. And as I said, I believe the deal is going to be Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and maybe Austin Reaves. I want to hear your thoughts on that one down below in the comment section. Would you guys do it or not? And if not, why? Because it definitely is a interesting situation that's brewing over there in LA and Atlanta, because we could realistically see DeJounte Murray head to La La Land. Now, do I think it's the right move? I mean, that's up to dealer's choice. And like, I'm not someone who's going to be here and be like, oh, they should have done this, they should have done that, because I, at the end of the day, don't really care too much. But let me hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. The rest of the video will be our previous reporting on Lakers trade news. So first one we're doing is the Lakers. The Lakers are supposedly still monitoring the trade market, as they don't want to make a move, but they do believe that they could be forced to make a move for a player that could be a suitable third option or second option, whatever you want to call it, next to Anthony Davis and LeBron James, who have been relatively healthy the entire year, as well as the entire team has been really healthy. So for them, the Los Angeles Lakers have continued to tell teams that they've discussed exploratory trade talks with, that Austin Reaves, sources say, is someone that they do not want to part ways with. There does seem to be a pathway for DeJounte Murray to a Los Angeles deal. I personally believe it's going to be Rui Hachimura with Gabe Vincent and maybe Max Christie or Jalen Hood-Schifino, or both of them. Some sort of combination of those four players. Not all four of them, maybe three of them, maybe two of them. We will see. The biggest thing for the Hawks is that they're cheap and they want draft assets because they gave up too much for Murray to begin with. Now, the Lakers could be willing to include Reaves in a deal for DeJounte Murray, although that would require the Hawks having to send back more value to Los Angeles for compensation. Okay, so basically, if Reaves is traded to, per se, the Hawks, they would want probably young guys like AJ Griffin, Kobe Buffkin, or maybe they want Patty Mills or somebody. Patty Mills hasn't really played, so I don't know how much value you would give them, but you get what I'm saying there. So the Hawks are a team that likes to stay below the luxury tax. And around the league, D'Angelo Russell's $17 million salary is not viewed as a valuable trade asset. It's a neutral, maybe even a negative asset. So it's really just looking at salary filler. And that's why I believe maybe a Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent deal would be more likely. So just keep an eye on this. The Lakers will do whatever they can not to trade Austin Reaves. But if they do trade him, it's because they're getting compensation back that they believe is going to help them in the long run. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Rest of this will be reporting on other Lakers news. Yo, what's going on, guys, in Lakers news? I want to hear your thoughts down below. So we got a couple things we can talk about. Darvin Ham, if they keep losing, the seat's getting a little warm. He's not really in the realm of being fired right now, but there has been the illusion from Jovan Buha, the Athletic, that if they were to go on a pretty bad losing streak, he could be moved on. Now, he alluded to on a podcast that, and the information we're about to talk about is from Jake Fisher, but I'm adding some stuff that I heard in a podcast from the Athletic, that with Jovan Buha, the beat writer of the Lakers, that the Lakers, Zach LaVine, it's the contract that really, they don't like, but they're going to make a move. They're going to make a move. They're probably going to revert back to the last year's lineup, which was Jared Vanderbilt, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, I believe, and Austin Reaves was that lineup last year, which gave them just a bit more explosiveness and versatility. But they're expected to make a move. DeJounte Murray and Zach LaVine, two clutch sports guys, are the main guys. And I'm leaning the team needs 3-point shooting. They need shot creation. I know DeJounte Murray, Zach LaVine's the better shooter / scorer, an arguable fit to this roster. I personally think DeJounte Murray is the guy they need to go for. He's shooting 38% from 3 this year, 47% from the field, 21 points a night, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals. And those numbers are actually the same, basically the same what he averaged last year, but maybe down. I mean, he shot 35%, 34% from last year from 3, 46% from the field, 21 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists. While with the last year with the Spurs, he averaged 21, 8.5, 9. Okay, 8.5 rebounds, 9, and shot 33. He's a career 34.4% 3-point shooter. So Zach LaVine is probably not going to be a Laker because the Lakers are hesitant to take on a guy who's in the second year of a $215 million deal. He recently returned from, a right foot inflammation, and the Sixers are also not expected to pursue a deal for Zach LaVine. So Zach LaVine also in his first game back, he had 15.6 of 11, 1 of 5 from 3. So nothing crazy. And we'll talk more about Zach LaVine in a second. I just personally, before we continue going, I personally think they're going to go for somebody. And Jovan Buha related, or basically not related, but alluded that it's probably going to be a clutch sport client. DeJounte Murray and Zach LaVine are the 2 best fit clutch sport clients available. I personally think getting DeJounte Murray, 6'5", athletic, long-arm point guard. They need a point guard. Specializes in defense. He's got the size. Great rebounder. Decent 3-point shooter. Pretty good offensive player. And he can push the pace. You package Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, and a pick. You get yourself DeJounte Murray. What are your thoughts? Maybe you put in Max Christie or Jalen Hood-Schifino. Rest of the video will be the rest of the reporting we have on Zach LaVine. So Zach LaVine is still drawing interest from, yes, the Los Angeles Lakers. So teams that are looking for offense, obviously the Lakers. If you guys didn't know, the Lakers this season, according to StatMuse, if we want to go ahead and tell you guys what the team's offensive rating, they're a team that's been, obviously improved defensively. Last year, they were the 11th defensive rating, 20th defense. This year, they are the 10th defensive rating, 23rd offensive rating. Yes, they are the 7th worst offense in the league. So they're a team that's looking for offense. And USA Today writes that, Zach LaVine's a guy that they're interested in, and his availability is something that you could get for cheap. He's averaged so far, as he's about to come back from a right foot inflammation, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's shooting 44% from the field, 33.6 from 3, 86% from the free throw line. Obviously, he's an insane scorer. He's been out since November 28th with that right foot inflammation. He's on the second year of a 5-year, $215 million deal. Now, what do you get when you get Zach LaVine? Zach LaVine's a guy that, look, I understand that he's not really a guy who's going to get, he can play defense. He's way better at defense than when he first started his career, and he's a threat in the half court, and he can score at any given moment. And he's a crazy athlete, can create his own shot. He's a good catch and shooter. He's improved as a defender, but albeit from a very low point. He's just a high quality offensive player. It's the contract. Okay, it's the same thing with Bradley Beal. Look at what happened to the Suns. When you give up all that room and your salary cap for one guy, you get handicap. Okay, you turn yourself into a cuckold because you're gonna watch yourself get fucked. But at the end of the day, if you feel like he's gonna give you a championship, if you feel like he can be that treasury, right? I feel like, I don't know, third option scorer that will put it over the top so that you can win a championship, then go get him. I don't believe that he's that guy, but if you do believe that he's that guy, then there's no reason why you shouldn't go out and get him. There's other players that I think you can go out and get. We've heard that Gordon Hayward and a Gordon Hayward deal could happen. I mean, that works. I think Terry Rozier would be the better option if they're going there. DeMar DeRozan, of course, is another one, and he's on a cheaper deal. So you sit here and you think, what could they do, or what will they do? And I think what we've seen Rob Pelinka do time in and time out again is be a guy who enjoys cap flexibility. As I'm in agreement that the best thing you can do in today's age is make sure you're able to keep your roster flexible for any moves, as the second tax apron is about to come into effect with the new collective bargaining agreement. And I think that that's just something that you need to be mindful about and be able to continue to finagle and work around. So that's just my thoughts with the Lakers. And let's just get back into the reporting of what else we've heard for the Lakers and Zach LaVine.
Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we are obviously driving back from the G League Showcase, going to visit my folks for the holidays. And I'm seeing a report from Jovan Vuha and Darnell Mayberry out of The Athletic discussing the fact that the Lakers would be interested in a D'Angelo Russell-centric Zach LaVine trade. And what does that specifically mean, you guys wonder? Because, yes, I think that's a very convoluted way of saying that if the numbers were right, they would be interested in a trade that doesn't gut them defensively, in my opinion. I want to hear your thoughts before we start today's video. Link is in the description about this trade. So the overview is that one of the tricky parts of a Zach LaVine trade is his $40.1 million salary. That's got to be matched. So for the Lakers, that would have to start with D'Angelo Russell's $17.3 million contract. And he and LaVine have a very similar skill set. Russell's probably a better passer. They're probably equal defenders. LaVine's probably the better, more consistent scorer and better shooter. Now, the deal would also likely involve Rui Hachimura, who makes $15.7. That basically brings the deal to $33 million. They'll just be $7 million short. And the Bulls allegedly covet Austin Reaves, and it is said very unlikely that they would trade Reaves. So if Hachimura is involved in the deal, it would have to wait. The earliest this would have to occur is January 15th to be completed. And both players were signed in a bird right deal and got big enough raises over the prior salaries that the Lakers are unable to trade them until January 15th. So for Russell, he already waived his ability to block a trade as part of re-signing with the Lakers this past offseason. So it's been expected since Russell re-signed with the Lakers that they would use him to make a significant upgrade if there was a possibility. Now, continuing looking at like just the scope of this, we know that they've been linked, and Zach LaVine is conveniently out with an inflamed right foot until around mid-January. And the Lakers have interest in acquiring Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. Basically, they either would want to trade for Zach LaVine straight up or a package of Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan. I personally think it is more likely that they trade for DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso than Mr. Zach LaVine, because the Zach LaVine deal would require them to give up 3 players. Now, if they were to trade for Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan, it would be easier for them to get those players without giving up players who are vital to the rotation. So right now, from the Bulls side, the biggest hurdle is the asking price for LaVine and as well as DeRozan and Caruso. Supposedly Caruso is worth 2 first-round picks, and DeMar DeRozan has the least amount of trade value out of the 3. And if they do trade for DeMar DeRozan, his agent has to basically tell the Lakers that it's a verbal agreement that he will re-sign. So LaVine is probably going to be cheaper in terms of draft assets that they would need to give up to get him. But Caruso and DeRozan, I personally think are the better fit. I think like in terms like I think they just give them more better players to win now. And the thing is DeMar and Caruso are more vital and integral to the Bulls' turnaround than LaVine is. LaVine isn't playing, and they're playing good without him, and Kobe White's balling. So the Bulls are more motivated to move LaVine than DeMar DeRozan and Caruso. They want to keep Caruso. They basically have him untouchable unless an offer they can't refuse comes across the table. And DeMar says he wants to stay in Chicago, and Chicago values him, but contract extension talks have been put on pause. So the problem with Chicago is that they've quickly developed a reputation for overvaluing their own trade discussions. So that could be the biggest hurdle, as the 3 past failed trades or like trade deadlines that they could have sold somebody, they weren't able to because teams pulled out as they felt like the Bulls were overvaluing their own guys. So that is something that could be a doozy for them. Now, on the Lakers fronts, they're just going to remain patient, stay pat. And from Jovan Bua's understanding is that the Lakers prefer a DeMar DeRozan with Caruso or just Caruso by himself, given their contracts. Now, the Lakers have preferred year-to-year flexibility over enduring the long-term salaries of players that they don't feel like are like on the same level as LeBron and Davis, as they've done that since their championship run in 2020. They basically don't want to get themselves handicapped like the Cavs did with all the contracts they re-signed after they won the title. So Caruso makes 9.5 this year, 9.9 next year. And DeRozan's on an expiring 28, both are team friendlies, and Caruso's one of the best defensive players in the league. Now, Levine is with Clutch Sports. Okay? And we all know Rich Paul, LeBron's childhood friend, runs Clutch Sports. So for them, currently they have 4 players who, Cam Reddish, Davis, Jared Vanderbilt, and James, who are all with Clutch Sports. So for them, James has been a fan of Levine, but we also have to note that, he has also been publicly a fan of DeRozan. For Levine, though, D'Angelo Russell, like we said, is a better fit, and they're saying potentially either Max Christie or Jalen Hood-Schifino and a pick would have to be involved, and we're talking a first-round pick. Now, I think that's quite rich for Zach LaVine, especially his contract. And the whole thing is that Los Angeles doesn't even interest in trading Reaves for LaVine. Like, there's nothing there. Even for them, they're saying that offer, though, could be what the Bulls would want for Mr. DeRozan and Caruso. Adjusting the players involved in the matching salary, the Lakers only have 1 movable first-round pick, and I think they're willing to move that 1 first-round pick for both DeRozan and Caruso instead of just one of Mr. Zach LaVine. So the lack of interest league-wide for LaVine, maybe they could get him for cheap, but I just think it's difficult. So for me, what I think is going to happen, realistically, guys, what I think will happen is probably Jalen Hood-Schifino, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, and the only first-round pick they have left traded. And maybe they trade also, let's say, Max Christie. And let's say Max Christie, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell go to the Bulls, and the Lakers send Jalen Hood-Schifino to a different team to get a first-round pick in this year's draft because it's a really weak draft class. Maybe they send Jalen Hood-Schifino to, the Thunder, and they get, a contract that the Thunder don't want, or a player, on an expiring deal with a projected late first in this year's draft. So then the Lakers are able to maybe also a protected pick or a pick swap with a different team, and down the road, something of like that for Jalen Hood-Schifino, so they can still recuperate some draft asset and maybe get a discarded player from a team like the Thunder or somebody else that has a stockpile of picks. I think that's actually somewhat realistic. Let me hear you guys' thoughts though.